Day of high drama at the Capitol. At this hour, we're awaiting a Senate vote on the Republican tax bill that could come at any time. The House voted this afternoon, passing the bill despite every Democrat opposing it, along with 12 Republicans. Well, late today, there was a wrinkle. House Republicans said they will slightly alter the bill and re-vote tomorrow to ensure it fits with Senate rules that allow it to pass with a simple majority. The Senate parliamentarian had rejected several provisions snuck into the bill that aren't budget related. They included, catch this, something on homeschooling from Ted Cruz and a tax benefit for a college. Guess where? In Mitch McConnell's home state of Kentucky, earmarked just for that college. Well, despite those snags, it is expected to pass the Senate tonight. The tax bill slashes corporate tax rates. It also cuts individual tax rates, though the wealthiest will disproportionately benefit. Today, Republicans celebrated what amounts to the most sweeping tax overhaul in a generation.
My colleagues, this is a day I've been looking forward to for a long time. We are about to achieve some really big things. Things that the cynics have scoffed at for years, decades even. Today, we are giving the people of this country their money back. This is their money after all.
How big of a deal do you think today is for Republicans voting on tax?
Oh, I think it's gigantic. We think it's a really big deal. We think it's the right thing for the country. It'll speed up growth. It'll create jobs and opportunity, and it'll lower the tax burden on the American people. Those are all great things.
And this bill is deeply unpopular. Are you sure that this is going to translate into a political win?
A total winner.
And it is about cutting taxes for the American people, and indeed this bill does that. I feel very comfortable with that, and it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it will be a historic day for Americans from coast to coast.
Well, this morning, the president tweeted, stocks in the economy have a long way to go after the tax cut bill is totally understood and appreciated in scope and size. Immediate expensing will have a big impact. Biggest tax cuts and reform ever passed. Enjoy and create many beautiful jobs. That's Trump talking. Independent analysts say the wealthiest Americans will benefit the most from this bill. According to the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center, if you're making under $25,000 a year, you get about a $60 tax cut, $60. For middle-class Americans, the average tax cut comes to just under $1,000. But if you're one in the top 1%, making over $730,000, you're getting an average of $51,000 back, with a lot more at the top. All in, 65% of the bill's benefits would go to the top 20% of earners in 2018. And it's worse when the bill's temporary tax cuts expire. According to Vox, by 2017, more than half of all Americans, 53%, would pay more in taxes, and nearly 83% of the bill's benefit would go to the top 1%. For more on a dramatic day in Washington, I'm joined by Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado, Washington Post columnist Catherine Rampell, and Republican National Committee Chair Michael Steele. Thank you very much for this. Well, are the Democrats, what is the feeling on the House, on the Senate side, Senator? Are you feeling, my God, the Republicans are putting their head into the lion's mouth here? Why do they want to be hated by 99% of the country to benefit 1%? I
think the feeling, you heard Paul Ryan say that he's been waiting for this for a long time. I think we all think he's been waiting it from the first time he ever read Atlas Shrugged, and that's what he's trying to put in place. So it's ideology. Here. It's totally ideology. It's a bill, we could have had a bipartisan bill that lowered the corporate rate maybe to 25, cleared out some loopholes, increased the earned income tax credit or the child tax credit, and spent some money on infrastructure. That could have gotten 70 or 80 votes. Tonight, instead, we're passing a bill that's a radical Republican bill that bears no relationship between what their description of it is and what the president's description of it is and what's actually in the bill.
Catherine, you've written beautifully on this. Tell us about this bill, because it really is a shift of wealth to the top, as if the wealth at the top was any, needier than anybody. What do you make of the fact that that seems to be shrouded in the way that Trump's people understand this so far?
Yes, it's bizarre in that almost every talking point that Republicans have made about this legislation is false, right? It's not going to primarily benefit the middle class. It's not going to raise taxes on the rich. It's not going to pay for itself. It's not going to supercharge growth, and so on. So the question becomes, if, in fact, this is such a great idea, why not sell it on the merits? Why not say, you know what, we think that rich people deserve to have fatter paychecks, deserve to be able to keep more of their investment earnings, their passive income, and just sell it on those measures alone. And instead, they're just trying to hoodwink America. I think for that I think because Americans are following this bill more closely than they might have otherwise, they are learning that a lot of these talking points are false. In fact, possibly all of them are false, and that's part of the reason they don't like the legislation.
Well, the polls show the Republican tax bill is extremely unpopular in the country. The brand new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll out tonight shows 41% disapprove, only 24%, less than a quarter, like this bill. A Monmouth poll this week shows an even bigger gap, 47% approve, while 26% disapprove. And a CNN poll, I think that's wrong, more than half to say they oppose the bill. I think that other one's wrong, the middle one. Those were opposed as well. Look at that, disapprove 47, approve 26. So all three polls, Michael, say that your party's tax bill is against their interests.
Yeah, and that's a problem. And I don't know how you go out to the country, to middle America, and make the case when middle America, because remember, particularly with the last poll, 55%, that includes Republicans. That's not just Democrats and independents in that number. So clearly there are enough people out there, to the senator's point, who have been paying attention to this and trying to decide whether or not this does exactly what the leadership says it does for me. And their conclusion so far is it does not. Okay. And I think that's going to be a problem when it comes to selling the bill.
Here's a problem I have. I grew up with Republican parents who were moderate Republicans, cloth coat Republicans. They weren't well off. And they didn't benefit from this Republican bounty for the very rich. Why do regular Republicans who are not rich, including the rural people who voted for Trump, cheering for a tax cut, which goes to people they'll never meet in their lives and maybe see in a movie somewhere or hear about on Wall Street? They'll never meet these people. Why do they say, great work, Donald Trump, keep giving money to the top 1% of 1% people? I will never be invited to their homes, never meet them on the street because they're not on the street. Why do they vote this way?